The views and opinions expressed by the participants on this show are not necessarily those of Stewart Information Services Corporation, Stewart Title, or Stewart Insurance. Before you make any investment, you should seek the advice of your investment advisor or attorney.
Whether you're a real estate broker, realtor, homeowner, buyer, or seller, everything matters when it comes to real estate. This is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Stewart Title's Bill Knapik and guests open the door to what really matters in owning, buying, and selling real estate. And now, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title, brought to you by Stewart Insurance. Here to inform, entertain, and inspire, Bill Knapik.
And welcome to the show. It is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Thank you for joining us here today. We're so happy that you are here, and we really appreciate you listening to the show. In fact, I'm very excited as we have been hearing from the reports that we're starting to gain more listeners. More people are hearing about the show and listening to the show, not just in Houston, but beyond, and not just at the time of broadcast, but also on the various internet platforms that we have. And that's a great time to tell you that if you want to hear this show again, or any of our past shows, or see all the guests and the topics that we have discussed in the last several years, simply go to Stewart.com/radio. That is Stewart.com/radio. That's right. You can not only hear the shows, but we make a YouTube video of each and every show. You could also see the tremendous guests and hear some of the super content that we have week after week. And today we're going to talk about new homes. We have a realtor. We're going to talk about real estate as well. So Real Estate Matters begins right now as we welcome Jen Tran with Keller Williams Memorial. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for having me.
Well, your company, Keller Williams, is all over the place. I think an international company, right?
It sure is. We're all over the world.
But certainly right here in Houston, you are with Keller Williams Memorial. First of all, let's tell people a little bit about Keller Williams Memorial.
Well, we are the largest full-service brokerage in the greater Houston metropolitan area. So, terrific office to be at.
In fact, I was there just a few weeks ago with Larry and the team. I had the opportunity to talk to your group, and I got to meet you and many other great people as well. And one of the things I want to tell people also, the location. Let's tell them about your location geographically and how that helps you serve the Houston community.
Yeah, we are located right off of I-10 in Campbell and in front of Hedwig Village. Super easy to get to and great location because we're right there in Memorial and across the street from Spring Valley.
Also, there's some super restaurants that are emerging around there as well. I'm on top of the food scene just in case you want to know. So let's tell people, as far as the way you approach real estate, there's so many real estate agents and professionals here in our area, around the world, no doubt, but I think we have a lot right here in Houston. How do you approach your real estate profession here? And you've been doing it now over 10 years or so, right?
Yes, actually, June marked 10 years for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I look at it more as a service, and I do it to help people. It's just, I see people who sell real estate or buy properties, and they're just really taken advantage of, or they got a horrible deal because their agent didn't know what to do. And that's really why I do what I do, is because it just makes me mad and drives me crazy that someone can be taken advantage of like that.
Well, also, I've heard several real estate professionals and brokers say that that's how they got in the real estate world as they were going through a transaction, whether it was here in Houston or Texas or not, and they thought they weren't satisfied with the way they were served, so to speak, and they became an agent, and now they work at exceeding expectations all the time, just like you do.
Yep, I hear that a lot also.
First thing I thought of, is the market slowing down? As I started to hear that last week a little bit, and I know it goes up and down, but what's it like right now? What do you think?
So I feel that it is. I personally think that homes are no longer taking hours and minutes to sell. Now it's taking days, maybe a week to sell, which is not really slowing down that much.
Not really.
But I went to a conference last week, and the person who hosted the conference actually said that the market hasn't slowed down. It's just that summer hit and everybody's going on vacation. So everybody who's been cooped up for COVID for these past, year, they're finally going on not even one, but 2 vacations. So that's why we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown because of that. But it's not because the market has changed much.
Well, also I've heard, yes, you're right. A lot of people are on vacation. I've reached out to 2 people on unrelated matters, and I'm like, oh, they're on vacation. Also, I'm hearing the term, there's some buyer fatigue. You've heard that? Where
Yes.
the buyers are like, man, I tried to get 3 homes,
Yes.
and I've lost every one of those homes, or something happened to the transaction that they say, hey, I'm just out for a while. I'm going to check with you all later as far as
I
Have you seen
actually
that?
I do. I have clients that were in that same situation, and that was a couple of months ago. And guess what? They called me this weekend and wanted to look at a house because they thought the market was slowing down.
Well, I think there's a thing about real estate, whether it's now 10 years ago or maybe even 50 years ago, and that is there's something about real estate that's irresistible to want to know about.
Yes.
So think about that whole concept. You want to know about it because it's just fascinating, right down to design, home design, interior design, structural, all those things. So we're fascinated with real estate.
Yes.
We want to own it. But then there's also the sector of people that are in the market to buy it. But we're always wanting to know. And I think when people want to buy it and they get out of the market, they want to get back in.
Exactly.
I think it's an addiction, maybe even.
It is. And that's one of the reasons I like to offer my clients market analysis of their homes, because even if they're not ready to sell their house right now, they want to know what it's worth and how much equity they have in it. So I just go ahead and run those analysis for them so that they can know how much equity they have in their house. So in a year or so, when they're ready, they'll give me a call.
Well, it's sort of a due diligence as a homeowner to begin with, to where even if I want to stay in my home for X amount of years, every
Yes.
once in a while, we should know what it's worth and what the
Exactly.
activity is in
Right.
case something occurs where we have to sell. So how often does that happen where someone reaches out and says, hey, Jen, I just want to know what my home's worth, or we want to know what it's worth. And the next thing you know, they say, look, I think we want to change our house.
Well, it's happened a lot this year just because of the market, and people have seen the house down the street sell for crazy high numbers. And so people are like, oh, well, what do you think my house could sell for? So I've been doing a lot of that this year. And so I've had 1 or 2 decide to go ahead and sell because they saw what they could get, and they had somewhere to go.
So as far as being a buyer, though, then that puts you in the buyer's seat. So then there are additional challenges there.
Yes.
Knowing what you know as you're in real estate every day, if you were a buyer right now in the Houston, Texas market, what would you be thinking about, and what should other people that are buyers think about and know if we're getting into the buying game right now? How would you approach it?
Well, you will be paying a little bit higher prices because you're fighting against other people. You may. The first thing that comes to my mind is when buyers look at a house and they're like, oh, well, let's try to negotiate. Let's go 10, 20,000 under. You can't do that in this market. So you can't expect to be able to negotiate that much in this market unless the house has been sitting on the market for a little while. And that really is at any time, but especially right now because we don't have that many houses sitting that long. So you just have to accept the fact that you're going to be paying that list price.
What about the sellers, let's say, that have a home that they don't keep up with, it's not maintained?
Yes.
And some of these sellers, I've seen it, want to get in the market thinking that, hey, now's a good time to dump this home that might be a problem in some ways. I'm seeing that. Have you seen much of that?
Yes, they are. And those are the ones that are actually sitting on the market a little bit longer because they're not fixing anything. They're dumping them, like you say, and they're still expecting those crazy high prices. So those are the ones that end up sitting a little bit longer that you may be able to deal on a little bit down the road.
So as far as the seller, if you were selling in the market right now, what are the things you would be thinking about as a seller? Because that kind of leads us right to that idea. Right. Hey, we want to have our house in top shape, right? What else should we think about if I'm selling my home?
I always advise my clients to make sure that their house is in top shape, no matter what the market looks like, because it's the feeling that a buyer gets when they walk in the door of whether they want to purchase that home. So if you've got that ugly carpet and you want to just give an allowance for that, sometimes that doesn't happen because then that buyer comes in and just thinks, oh, this is an ugly house. But if you had that replaced, they're going to love it. So you still do need to do all those little extras to get the best price.
I think one of the things that's interesting, there's so much psychology involved in everything, but especially real estate, it's emotional. I think when you're looking at homes, you see this, let's say an average amount of homes you're taking a buyer. If I were the buyer, how many homes are we looking at in a given afternoon?
Oh, I don't like to take anyone more than 8 properties.
That's
quite
a bit.
lot. And those are usually the people who are coming from out of town and only have that weekend to look. But because there's so little inventory right now, we're maybe seeing 4, 5 in a day.
Okay, so let's take those 4 or 5 and just think about this. The timing of how emotions work. When you drive up to the house, you get an idea. And as the realtor, you're watching the buyers. I'm sure you see the signals, but it happens instantly from the drive up, the feel of the neighborhood, and as you said a minute ago, walking in the door.
Right.
Sometimes you know right away, don't you?
You sure do. Yeah. So curb appeal. Number one thing to take care of is that curb appeal. If they drive up and they don't like it, they already have an idea in their head that they're not going to like the inside. So even if the inside's nice, they've already formed their opinion.
Give us a word about luxury real estate. Now, in your office at Keller Williams, you're involved with all real estate, but certainly you're also focusing a little bit on the luxury. Tell us how you approach that and what that is.
Well, I am the chair of the luxury division at my office. We have a huge luxury division there, and we were the 3rd largest luxury division in the country for Keller Williams last year. So
wait a minute. First of all, just to people already know how big the country is, but they may not know how big your office is. That's saying a lot. You have several hundred agents at Keller Williams Memorial.
We have about 720 agents at our office.
I didn't know that's a lot.
That is a lot.
So that's saying something. That's a powerful office.
It is.
And with that, when people enlist your services, you have access to so many tools and so much information. That's a benefit to the buyers and sellers.
We do. We have a great number of luxury agents there. We collaborate together. We do luxury showcases. We help each other to promote each other's listings.
And we're talking with Jen Tran with Keller Williams Memorial. What are some of the other things that we should think about? What about relocation, Jen? Are you seeing many people coming in to Houston from out of state, let's say?
Of course. Everybody's talking about all those California buyers right now. There's a lot of people from California coming.
And besides California, where else? I mean, you're right. We hear about California all the time.
Let's see. We do see some from Denver, which is interesting because we see people going to Denver also because Denver is such a great place to live also. I'm trying to think. Mostly, I want to say all of mine have been from California.
So there you go. And what part of California? North, south?
South.
For some reason, that's right. The Southern California, I'm hearing about that too. As far as when you help your buyers, do you work with investors as well?
I only have a few investors. It's just investors are sometimes a little bit longer relationship-wise just because they just want a good deal. And so sometimes it's just hard to find a good deal in today's market for them.
Now,
yeah. And so with those, you're really having to go talk to people that don't have houses that are on the market. You're having to look behind the scenes. And I have so many investors that call me daily for those, but, we're all looking.
And at the mighty Keller Williams Memorial Office, and mighty it is, no doubt about that, when you have your meetings, and the one that I was at recently, what are the things that you're talking about as upcoming things in the market? What are you looking at? What are from the top of Keller Williams Corporation to begin with, and then also your office? What are they telling us to expect you as realtors, and then as the year winds down here? What's the outlook?
The outlook is that there are going to be some changes, especially with the eviction process, that they're going to come back. And that's, I think, just went away this past weekend, I think. So that's going to make a little bit of an impact on that because those people are going to be out and they're going to have to be looking for some homes, and even those landlords might be selling their homes or trying to do something with those homes. So that's going to have an impact on it. But the outlook of real estate right now is that it's going to look like this for pretty much the rest of the year going into next year.
Still very powerful. Jen, before we close the segment, what else do you want people to know?
One thing that came to my mind earlier when you're talking about real estate and getting your house ready, my number one motto is that you want to be the house that sells and not the house that sells the house that sells.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So always keep that in mind when you're preparing your house, because you want to be it. You want to win.
You're exactly right. And as we mentioned, the psychology, we're comparing all the time as buyers, whatever we buy. We go to a restaurant, but when we're looking at homes, spending that amount of money, you look into one home and you say, wow, the other home we looked at had this, this, and this, or didn't have. There you go. There's the psychology. And that's why we have trained professionals like you, Jen Tran, helping people every day. That's why it's serious business. Jen, let's tell people how they can reach you.
I am on Instagram and Facebook at JenFinehomes.
And your phone number?
832-646-2674.
That's 832-646-2674. Jen, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.